Hi. So I won't reveal any other secrets because I'm going to talk about simpler things, and some of you may think that it's too simplified, and some of you, well, you might think of it so it's applicable to some of the cases that you have. So why did I decide to choose this specific topic? So because my experience shows that different people have different understanding of what strategy is, and I would like to share my view on the approaches, how the strategy is applied, and I'm in charge. So in Risk Nickel, I'm in charge of the methodology of the development and strategy and tracking the implementation phase. So that's my function. And 15 years before, I worked in consulting. And what I would like to start with, so first of all, is the strategy is not just a set of wishes with some magic results at the end, but this is the choice of where to go, some of the problems that we need to tackle. So you cannot solve all the problems at once. So therefore, we need to focus on some of the things that are more tangible and more painful things that we need to tackle. And therefore, this presentation is not so much about the strategy of info security, but more of a approach on how to build a strategy, and also what's applicable for this specific way. And the conventional wisdom, it's believed that there are two types of strategies: the survival strategy and just strategy of growth. In any scenario, you have a search for some of the solutions to a problem. And if we speak about the strategy, if we speak about survival strategy, so we are in the mode when we have regulator talking to us and limiting limited resources, and at each of these scenarios, we need to find a way or a set of some technical and other ways, other measures that would allow us get to this target condition. So I want to reiterate myself, but anyway, to get to the end of it. And if we speak about the growth strategy, so which is the strategy of not every company today, so those are the set of, let's say, new product development or the growth of margins and the growth of income. So, of course, if we look into the strategy of any company, you will see the description of a particular state. So you will see the trends in the market or trends in your industry, and there will be some mission kind of statement. I do not understand this segment, but of course we're not speaking about me, my perception, but there will be some strategic goals outlined. A separate talk will be dedicated to that, and some narratives, some kind of roadmap and mechanisms of assessment of how to control the strategy itself during its implementation. And your view, so let's have like feedback from the audience. What's the most difficult stage in terms of the strategy if we use this model? Well, and yes and no, but the most difficult is trying to agree between all those parts, because you see, strategy takes like a month to draft by a very small group of people, but then to verify and agree with all of the department stakeholders, it takes a huge amount of time because there are conflicts that emerge. And nevertheless, how do we read the strategy? So how it's being developed? So this has to be, the clear goal has to be identified, because the goal is the solution to the problem that we have, and the further steps would be the mission and so protection of everything. So to have the imperatives and have the description of what's what's out there, and also the fullness, full description of these goals and trends and mechanisms of assessment. And it would be interesting to learn what kind of tools are employed during the strategy. And of course, there's a set, of course, we have some domains where we are assessing ourselves. And when I say assess ourselves, maybe there are consultants involved. And here we have this slide demonstrating or kind of making an illustration to some of the aspects of this work, because after the assessment of the kind of well-roundedness of this project, or whether it's fully fledged or not, so we increase and look at the fruition of this project in this or that domain. And we can call it the chart, organizing chart, especially for the survival strategy, that's relevant. If we see that we have a goal, increase the efficiency, for example. So by this date, we need to do the same amount of work at less cost, or so using the infrastructure that we have, and we see the departments and look through the functions that they perform, and how do we separate the activities and responsibilities, and there would be some functions or some services on, let's say, info security, and we need to agree on those results where we get into, and the payroll, and we need to calculate how much money it costs us. So this is the tool. Again, getting back to the discussion earlier, how to justify your expenses towards information security. So this is where the number of people perform this particular number of functions. If you need those functions, of course, we're going to cut costs, meaning fire some of the people, and but if you need to operate certain machinery, it's very difficult to cut, let's say, make some other people redundant. And but the most important thing here is to compare not something warm with something that is hard, but you need to compare apples to apples to apples, and therefore you need to compare your results with your own results over the previous period, and you can compare your own department to the results of the department, or kind of adjacent department, or IT department, and info security department, and we can compare ourselves with other companies, because other companies, I'd say, I believe that there are no two identical companies. Even if you name certain, let's say, departments in the same name, but you have different expertise, and very difficult to compare. So therefore, there's data manipulation takes place. And nevertheless, the portfolio project, so we can use the assessment of risks to justify this or that project, and because so we have the assessment of risk, and then we select the ways to reduce that risk, because it can be the level of risk could be either by the impact, the probability, or impact in terms of the losses of this risk, and or simultaneously it can work towards the losses. And once again, we need to think hard about what kind of examples we can arrive at. And unfortunately, in info security, we have more probability domain that we need to operate. And when we have the problem with these banks, so the money was not drained of so the money was sent from one bank, but those banks that were on the receiving end, they returned this money. And then balancing out this the project, this or that project, for helping and implementing a particular project. In terms of the we have the roadmap, and there is some correlation between them, so we need to break it into some of the kind of stages, and I don't want to explain it, so this is just classical project management, managing a set of projects. And the most interesting piece, we have the projects in the strategy. They're not there by themselves, so they are being implemented to assist and help the company get to where they want to get to in terms of the info security goal to arrive there, and to that end, I will explain later why we need to identify the impact of each project towards this or that goal. So because it's quite rare, occasionally, let's say, when one project can be focused on receiving or achieving only one goal. So, for example, import substitution. And so you have the import, let's say, substituted product by 2030, so that'll be only one project related to this strategic vision. On the other hand, we can have a number of projects to protection of the network perimeter.
So we will have a number of activities involved, included, that will be connected in this or that manner with the protection of SOCART and import substitution, because this is the basis of today. After we define the impact of the project on meeting the goal, their correlation, I would offer to use the mechanism objective key results that allow to assess meeting the goals based on the results that we define. So we have this intermediate results for each of the project, and therefore all KR once per half a year or once per quarter to define where we are in terms of implementation of the strategy. It is similar to KPI, but KPI is about operational activities, and I will talk about this later. And the most important thing about OKR, you cannot meet it 100%. It's next to 60-70%, because OKR means disruptive change. So we are not part of this operational activities paradigm. We are to meet the targets, achieving the results that will influence and change our activities in major part. And the last but not least, about the operational activities, I would offer to decompose it to the level of the following. What do we do and why? Why do we do this? What for? So if it doesn't refer to our strategic goals, probably it has no meaning to proceed with the activities. So this is pretty much it. Herewith, I would like to close the presentation. If you're willing to ask me a tricky question, then I'm here for you.